how can we support that individual to be successful? And people sometimes get mad at me when I say this, but a lot of times, people with disabilities aren't successful at work, and it has nothing to do with their disability, but it has everything to do with the supports provided or instructions provided. So it's on the job coach, right? Also, maybe it's not a good job fit, but that's, not going to be on the job coach, but everybody can learn. Yeah, I like Jessica said, we do the work until it works. Exactly. I love that. Um, right, it's all about providing those right amount of workplace supports, because everyone is employable. Again, if you ever need some examples, I got a ton of them, because everyone is employable. Right. These are all of the competencies for this module. There's a lot. I'm not going to go over each of them. Um, right, Brian and RJ said, like the dog whisperer show, got to teach the owner first. Okay, now I feel personally attacked by that because I have a dachshund who never listens to me, so I'm not going to take accountability for that. He's just a little butthead. No, but yes, no, you're right. Yeah, you have to teach the person first, right? It your job is jobs, right? So you're gonna have to know the job by doing a job analysis, and then you're gonna be able to provide those right amount of workplace supports because you're gonna be familiar with systematic instruction. And these are all the competencies. They are in the PDF file that I just uploaded to the chat box. Again, if you can't download it now, it's gonna be an email that I'll send out later. But after completing module 4, you're going to understand how to develop a task analysis. So these are different than a job analysis, but we're going to be talking a lot about task analysis. Also, we're going to be talking about training objectives, right? What is the objective here? And then how to teach for the acquisition of skills. So I'm going to be talking about how to teach somebody a skill they don't know how to do, right? Something they've never done before, but they need to acquire this certain skill. Right? And depending on the job, the individual with disabilities may already know some of the job skills, but might need assistance with learning others. And so initially, the job coach may be off the work site 100% of the majority of the day, providing those supports, but this presence is going to fade gradually as the employee learns the job. Right? And everyone can be independent and can work jobs independently. And they may just require ongoing follow-up visits or whatever they may need. Right? It's all about those individualized workplace supports. So we're going to talk about how to develop compensatory strategies. Does anyone know? Okay, question. Does anyone know what a compensatory strategy is? Uh, this module has a lot of vocab words. Don't worry, I had no idea what a compensatory strategy was until I started working at USU, but these were things I was using all the time. I just didn't know the technical term for it. So I'll just talk about it briefly, but we'll get into it a little bit more later. But compensatory strategies are environmental modifications or behavioral strategies that are designed to bypass, persistent impairment, and to achieve a vocational related goal. Right. So this might be, using a mnemonic to help someone remember something. What is it with math? It's please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That's a compensatory strategy. Or maybe using a timer, right? Maybe they need a timer or a stopwatch, or using a video prompt or model, setting calendar reminders, alarms. Right? These are all compensatory strategies. We use them every day to help us get our jobs done and be successful at work. Right? Same for people with disabilities. We want to start implementing those compensatory strategies. And all of this, right, is going to come together and it's going to be leading to fading from the job site. So if you get nothing from this training besides one thing, please let it be that you are expected to fade from the work site. Fading is important. Okay. And I'm going to go off a little bit of a tangent for this one, but like, please fade your supports. It's incredibly important. All right. Like I know I hear the term line of sight a lot. If you have a client that you're working with that is considered line of sight, please ask why. Ask why. I started working with a lot of individuals, then I was told that they were line of sight, like they can never be independent out in the community. And when I asked why, turns out they could be independent, right? It was just all about the workplace supports. I asked why, and it was like, huh. Right? For example, I worked with an individual and I was told he was line of sight. I was like, why? And they're like, oh, when they were a teenager, they didn't look both ways when they crossed the street. And I was like, okay, well, he's 54 now. So maybe it's about time to reassess that. Okay. So yes, I do understand that some individuals are going to be line of sight when they're working, but that doesn't mean you still can't fade. You can still be at the work site, but not providing any support. That's still fading, even if you have to be there. But also, if you were told they are line of sight, please ask why. Because we're not going to be like this is, the system, might not be set up for success. So if we're going to change things that aren't working, we got to question why they aren't working or why are things that way. Please ask questions. Okay. Um, yeah, anything, you want to add anything before I pass it along to you, Taylor? Taylor's going to take over this one.
Yeah, I would just like to say I was a VR client once upon a time. I and um if I ever got assigned to a CRP where they say all clients with disabilities are line of sight, I would have been like, are you not going to give me a chance to show you I can be independent? Really? Um, I need that opportunity. It's also very condescending. It tells me, okay, you don't trust me just because I have a disability. Um, and that's just going to make me rebel and want to prove you wrong, if anything. But unfortunately, not everybody has my fire, and some you might just be limiting them and enabling them to not depend on themselves. So I agree very strongly with Hillary.
I'll cover Taylorism.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Um, but on that note, so there is more vocab words. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you guys to define any of these things, but they're important for you to kind of know when providing, the right amount of workplace supports. Has anyone heard of Taylorism before? It's not named after Mr. Walters.
I have not.
Okay. Don't worry. It was something I knew nothing about before working at USU, but it was stuff I was seeing everywhere when I was an employment specialist. Okay. And businesses are really interested in this sort of stuff. Um, but Taylorism is a production efficiency methodology that breaks every action, job, or task kind of into small and simple segments, which can be easily analyzed and taught. Um, I'm going to show you guys and Mary said if the employer considers they cannot afford to have staff to monitor, and they do not want the liability due to safety. This is why they want me or someone to be there. Um, Taylorism is spelled with a Y, but yes, the word Taylor does come from this. So, Mary, there are a ton of research articles out there that I can send your way that are evidence of research based. So, everything that I'm presenting today is evidence of research based. I have citations. But there are a ton of articles out there that say individuals with disabilities are no more of a liability than people without disabilities. Um, Right. And I like there's facts, right? I'm, right, like everyone, like, and that should be on the employer, right? And like some employers may not want to work with people with disabilities because they have the um, incorrect ideology that they are more liable or they might cost more to support someone. Okay, that's not the case. People with disabilities are no more liable than people without, and there's evidence behind it. And I can send it your way, and you can use that to help show employers, like help to assuage any of those maybe misguided fears that they have. Um, right? I mean, it's like yeah, I will send you those articles. Like I actually like bookmark stuff that like kind of backs up my points, even if I don't have them cited in the training. Um, Yes, I will send over a ton of resources. You guys are going to get so many resources and stuff from me. I'd rather you have them, not need them, than need them, not have them. But so good questions though. I am gonna, yes, please ask why they're line of sight. All right. And, communicate with the employer. What supports need to be set up to help assuage those misguided fears so they can do the job independently and efficiently. Um, and right, and if you encounter any issues like that, give me a call. I love going to work sites. I love doing employer trainings. I love doing that stuff. That's a big part of my job. That's my main job duty is to support you all and, it's educate employers and everyone. Good question. I like this group. You guys have really good questions. Keep them coming. So now I'm going to show. So Taylorism, right? It's something that I had no idea what it was until I started working here, but stuff that I was seeing everywhere. Right? It's a production efficiency methodology. So I'm going to show you a super quick, very dated video. Everything in it is accurate. It's just old. I haven't found another one that is short that gets all the points I like. But the purpose of this video is to reinforce, right, that why like job analysis and everything that we've been talking about is something that businesses have been interested in for years.
Finally tonight, the Century on Friday. It's about...
You guys hear that? Sweet. Oh, there it is. All done.
Finally tonight, the Century on Friday. It's about productivity. All sorts of businesses are finding all sorts of ways to make their workplace more efficient. And so tonight, what many people believe is the most important ism of the 20th century, as in Taylorism. It is sometimes argued that Taylorism has made the most lasting contribution to American thought since the Federalist Papers. Taylorism, you might ask? Chances are you live and work by it. Tonight, the extraordinary impact of Frederick Winslow Taylor. At the turn of the century, when the Industrial Revolution hit its stride and was beginning to change everything, Frederick Winslow Taylor became convinced that one machine could turn America into an economic powerhouse, the stopwatch.
Frederick Taylor was the first efficiency expert. He came into the factories of the industrial Northeast and changed them.
Machines had already changed the mills of the 19th century, but the workers who ran them clung to the old ways of doing things. Trades were learned literally from watching another laborer. Workers were paid for piecework and were loath to work any faster, lest bosses lower the rate. Frederick Taylor thought the system was ridiculously inefficient.
He was the first person to come along and say, we can treat work as a science just as we can anything else. We can analyze it, we can tear it apart, and we can reconstruct it in a new, more efficient way.
Taylor was born into Philadelphia's Quaker aristocracy. He was born rich. His father never worked a day in his life. Taylor was accepted by Harvard, but he did not go. Instead, he learned about factories, how to read mechanical drawings, how to be a machinist. He became a consultant for America's steel industry when he convinced the mill owners that he could speed up production. They worked and Taylor watched. And he timed everything. Every job was broken up into tasks, each task timed with an eye to efficiency. Taylor determined that coal shovelers were most efficient lifting exactly 21.5 pounds. Then he designed the perfect, most efficient shovel and a schedule of how many lifts each worker should do every minute, every hour. When they should rest. Productivity soared. The workers hated it.
He deprived workers of control over the workplace, over their tools, and over the use of their bodies.
Taylor couldn't understand the animosity. He thought surely that more productivity would lead to happier workers who were better paid. By 1911, when he published his Principles of Scientific Management, the enthusiasm for Taylor's ideas had grown. In its division of labor and insistence upon speed, Henry Ford's assembly line followed Taylor's principles. Before long, Taylorism was felt everywhere. How to type faster, how to perform surgery faster. By the 1930s, Taylor's ideas of efficiency were even making themselves felt in the family kitchen.
An efficiently planned kitchen frees the housewife from fatigue.
But organized labor was never happy with Taylor. Even Hollywood was wondering where it might all lead. Taylor's one best way of doing things, organized efficiency, became central to the conduct of business in the 20th century. You can see it today on the assembly lines which produce our cars, our computers, our cheeseburgers, even our coffee.
New gurus have appeared in the managerial field, but none of them has had the influence of Frederick W. Taylor.
That would have pleased Taylor. He never knew the full extent of his influence. He became ill and died in 1915 at the age of 59. It is said that the last thing he did before he died was wind his watch. Taylorism, unionism, consumerism.
An efficiently planned kitchen frees the housewife from fatigue. All right, what are your thoughts on that video?
One thought that I kind of had was, it's like a whole new idea, which not everybody's on board at first, but then I'm thinking, I don't know, just the concept of it, it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you want to be more efficient? Like, take care of yourself too. Don't be, working yourself to death. But why, like, maybe Taylorism could be applied to other parts of your life too, just not workplace, like they were saying, to achieve more. But, I just, that part perplexed me. But I could see the workers' points as well, because everything's unknown until it's done.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Very good points. Right. So Taylor introduced this productivity efficiency methodology, and he did it on a company-wide scale. So yeah, it was for the interest of the business and the corporation, and it should have led to higher wages. But it didn't, because capitalism, they were making piece rate, and then they just introduced hourly wages and salary. Anyways, that wasn't on Taylor, but right, it was a very business-centered methodology, right? And businesses want people that are productive and efficient. So what your job is to find ways to increase that productivity and efficiency, but on that individualized level. So instead of it's a dual customer approach. Like, the employer is going to get a worker that's productive and efficient, and your support employee is going to be able to do the job, right? So, but it's going to be very individualized and human centered, right? It's a win-win for everybody, right? It's going to, instead of doing it on like maybe a company-wide scale, it's going to be for that individual. You're going to tailor those supports to those individuals. All right. Any other thoughts? Right. And
I
Brian,
felt it. Oh, sorry.
I was just saying, Brian and RJ said people are resistant to change until they know the benefits. Yes.
I felt
Sure.
it made some good points with safety, like the 21-pound limit, because maybe prior to that they were lifting a whole lot more. But it also touched my heart that it had taken the ownership and pride out of performing that job.
Yeah. Right. Like, yeah, right. There's pros and cons, but right. So, he was kind of like the first job coach for companies and businesses, and your guys are going to be doing it on that individualized level for the people that you support. Right. Employers want people that are productive and efficient. Same with everyone in this training, right? All of our jobs are contingent on us being able to do our jobs, right? Because if you're not efficient at what you do, what happens? You're going to get replaced, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same for people with disabilities. If they're not efficient or productive at what they do, they're not going to last long. Right? All right. Taylors, you want to take it away?
Go on to the next slide. There we go. Yeah, totally good comment about people are resistant to change until they know the benefits. When you consider that people with disabilities back in the 1950s were just simply placed in institutions, the fact of the matter is we are implementing a huge cultural shift by trying to get people with disabilities integrated rather than segregated. The next step from institutionalization was, okay, let's let them stay home, maybe let them be in our parks and in our stores, whatever. And then the next step has been, okay, let's protect these people. And now we're like, okay, we're trying to even push further than that. Let's integrate these people. And there is going to be some resistance. That's another thing about being a job coach, is sometimes you are going to find businesses that'll be like, no. I've had plenty where they won't even like blink an eye. As soon as they hear the word disability or any diagnosis, they're like, so it is it is resistant until I know the benefits for sure. So one of the huge elements of Taylorism is task analysis, which is going to be very, very important. Task analysis is basically a step-by-step instruction. It's like I said, very systematic. It's oriented around the accomplishments of a single task within a core or episodic routine. Like I said, if a job analysis is the macro, this is the micro. It could be something as big as how to change the coffee machine, to something as small as how to wash your hands effectively. Jessica says to flip the script. I have ADHD, but I turn it into my superpower. Woo woo. Yes. It involves organizing and sequencing steps of a task for teaching purposes, and like Hillary was explained, very individualized. You're going to see that sometimes you're going to have to go deeper, sometimes you're going to have to give less, as we're going to see in some examples in a minute. And it could also serve as a data collection system, because when you give a step instruction, it might make sense to one person but not to another, and you could write that in data like, okay, now I know I need to tell the employer, you need to say it like this for him to understand that. If you can go on to the next slide, Hillary. How to develop a task analysis. It is developed after the job coach reviews the job analysis and observes the employee complete the required and related routines. You might, at first, when you first work with them at a new job, you're going to have to watch kind of closely sometimes, like, okay, the whole job is working in the coffee shop. We know that there's going to be greeting customers, taking orders, changing the coffee. But wait, the cashier, he seems to stumble at the cash register. Like, why is that? The cash register has all these touchscreen buttons. It doesn't make sense to me. You might need to write a task analysis on that. Like, okay, person says, I want a mocha frappuccino with peppermint. Step by step. 1, make eye contact with the customer. Say okay, etc., etc. You're going to see it's sometimes very, very detailed. In a moment, you're going to see a video where it's like you're going to crack up. Next. Considerations for writing the task analysis. Complete the task yourself. Sometimes we don't know how to explain it until we're like doing it right there and writing down the steps we are doing. We're going to be doing an activity here in a moment where you are going to do a task yourself, and then you're going to write a task analysis, and others who don't know how to do the task are going to read that task analysis and try to do what is written down. So the first thing we're going to have you do is you do the activity. And then you think step by step. Develop steps that are observable and measurable. If I am wanting to make a ham and turkey sandwich, you might need to say more than just grab the bread. You might have to write down, grab the white bread from the oven. Measurable, like cut it in half evenly right in the middle. Sequence steps from first to last. I mean, makes a lot of sense. I mean, it would be weird to say, first step, hand the sandwich to the customer. Step 2, put pickles on the sandwich. So you obviously first to last, identify speed requirements. I had a client once who worked at Hoyt Archery, and the goal was to get each task done in a certain step because they need to distribute X amount of arrows between the day start and the day's end. And with us as job coaches, at first he wasn't reaching the amount of time. It was taking him like 2 minutes per arrow to get done. And so we had to write down each and every step, like, okay, it takes 10 seconds to do this. It should only take you 5 seconds to do that. By the end, he was getting each and every arrow actually faster than the intended time that was wanted because, well, he looked at his task analysis and he was even more efficient than the experienced workers all of a sudden. It's kind of funny how that works. And then identify tools needed to complete the task or routine. Sometimes you might run into a hiccup where it's like, okay, this task analysis is very clear and detailed, but why is it not working? And you might find out the client is actually left-handed, so you might need to write it in reverse because you're right-handed. You wrote it down from a right-handed person perspective. It could be something like that. It could be, okay, this person's allergic to latex gloves, so it's ineffective because it hurts. Go on to the next one.
I just have a quick question, and I apologize if I'm talking too much. I just
It's all
thank you. The modules yesterday, and I may be a different section, but I'm just paraphrasing here. Like it said, you are to follow the proven method of how to get this done, like or whatnot. Like the task analysis is what I'm feeling like it was referring to, because it's already got like all the science and everything added into it to show how it works. But I'm wondering, I know we aren't supposed to like create our own methods, but is it okay? Like, do you feel adapting it to an individual is acceptable? Like, maybe they respond better to like note cards and pictures, or you do a slideshow, or like, I mean, just as an example here, I'm on day program staff and we have some nonverbal clients. I'm creating this thing so that all the staff, instead of just me, knows American Sign Language to communicate with all our individuals. Like that's something I'm trying to bridge a gap here. Do you feel like that way of thinking is appropriate for our individuals that we're working with?
100%. It is
Awesome.
very individualized, and sometimes writing down words may not be effective. You may want to give pictures. You may want to model, and show like I mean, I don't know if they're deaf. You might use some sign language to show like step 1, and then show them that next. It very individualized. It's actually encouraged, not
Oh,
by
nice.
any means. It's it's by no means inappropriate
Oh, that's
to
awesome.
individualize task analysis.
Perfect. I was just curious about that, and I may have been thinking that concept of don't change things to something else that was in the modules yesterday. So I appreciate you letting me know that.
Absolutely. Were you about to say something, Hillary?
Gonna say, yeah, we're gonna show examples of like adjusting like task analysis. So it's for the individual, right? Like what's their learning style? Like how do they learn? Like do you need to learn sign to, help a person that you're working with learn a job? Or do we need to include pictures? Do we need to do a video task analysis? Like what works for them, right? Everything's individualized. So yes, right for the person. Very good. Yeah, we're going to show some examples here. You're like 2 slides ahead of us.
Sorry.
No, I love it. It shows that you're paying attention.
Thanks.
Yep. Do you mind taking this one, Hillary? I want to hear this.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, because also it was a former client of mine. So this is assessing like the prerequisite skills, right? So it's important to ensure that the individual have the prerequisite skills in order to do the skill we're trying to teach them, right? Like it's like, yeah, so we teach different things, right? Like acquisition, but do they have those prerequisites? So here's an example of an assessment form I used when teaching a former client of mine how to count back change, which was a skill she needed to learn in order for her to be successful at work. So when you're teaching counting back change, you would first assess whether the learner could identify coins, bills, and their values, and whether they could count by 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s and 25s, right? Those are the prerequisite skills for working a cash register and counting back change. All right. And so being able to identify the values of coins and bills, right, that's the prerequisite. So if those are not mastered, right, you're going to have to teach those first. And they should be included in the whole training plan design and part of the task analysis. So the individual in this example, the supported employee I was training could not identify coins and bills and their values. Right, so she just didn't have a lot of experience or really any working with money. So if she saw a penny, she would not know that that was 1 cent. She saw a $5 bill, she didn't know it was $5. If she saw, a quarter, she didn't know it was 25 cents. So I had identified those prerequisite skills that she needed, and I taught those prior to teaching the skill of counting back change. So you want to like assess the learner's level and individualize, right, your training plan design. All right. So right, like where is the learner? Like assessing, where they're at and what needs to be taught in order for them to learn the skill that is required. If that makes sense. Right? Yeah. All right. That's yeah. There's no questions.
So here's an example of a task analysis for setting the table. If you notice, there are some very descriptive words on here like place the large plate in the center of the placemat, not just place the plate in the center of the placemat, because chances are there's more than one size of plate. Put the butter knife on the small plate. That's an example of something where you might need to expand a bit. Like, what is a butter knife? A knife is a knife, right? Okay, you might need to write down put the dull looking knife on the small plate. The one with less ridges. Put the knife and spoon to the right of the large plate. It's very descriptive. Put the dessert spoon. What does dessert spoon mean? And that's sometimes when you write down, obviously you're going to be a job coach and be like, this is a dessert spoon. It's the one where it's a little larger than the others. It's meant to scoop ice cream or whatever, etc. So it's very important to know where your clients are at. Do they understand what these descriptions mean? do I have to show them? Do I have to model them and then write it down so that they could look at it and be like, okay, I remember what that is. It's better to be over descriptive than not descriptive enough. If it doesn't work out, write out more descriptions. If it's too descriptive, usually they'll communicate that to you one way or another, like, okay, this is confusing me. There's too much information on here. And you can find a way to sum it down. It's all about adapting and individualizing. Or you may need to set the place for a left-handed person. Absolutely. Reverse. Definitely know your clients and their needs and wants. I mean, it's obviously going to be very different for somebody who's single-handed or maybe has limited mobility of their hands. Next one. Like we mentioned earlier too, sometimes you need to put in images and use less words. Separate the laundry. Okay, I could see in that picture you have white laundry on the left and colored laundry on the right, and I see there's this little detail: put white laundry in one pile, colored laundry in another. Okay. I can see that, an example of that. Thank you. Measure detergent in a cap. Okay, what cap? Explain that this is the cap that was used to screw onto the detergent. That same one, it just like shows here. I know a lot of clients who they just love images because reading is very hard, especially if they have something like dyslexia or intense ADHD. It could be very useful to have pictures. Next. So here is another video you're going to watch. I hope you guys find this as enjoyable as I do. This guy you're about to see is a vocational rehab counselor, and he understands task analysis, and he uses his kids to kind of paint a picture of it, but in a very comedic fashion. You'll see that sometimes it is a bit frustrating to write a task analysis, because how many times have we seen somebody like, you know what you're doing, you're just being... Anyways, I don't want to spoil it. Start the video.
I guess I'm not logged into YouTube, sorry.
What's up, the internet? You know what? I'm hungry. I could really go for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Okay. Do you guys think you can write down some instructions and teach me how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
Yeah.
Then do it.
I knew we were gonna do this. I heard Dad talking to Mom.
Choke yourself on my hand. Sometimes they do what you tell them. Step 1, get 2 pieces of bread out. Got 'em. Get a butter knife and get some PB. Take 1 piece of bread, spread it around with the butter knife.
No, Dad, with the peanut butter.
I'm just doing what it says. It says take 1 piece of bread, spread it around with the butter knife.
Hold on.
Get some jelly, rub it on the other half of the bread.
No, Dad, open the jelly.
Well, it doesn't say to do that. Put the breads together on top of each other. Take a big bite. This doesn't taste like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Fail.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I had to make it extremely specific.
Oh, good. I'm starving. Take 2 pieces of white bread out of the bag. Take the lid off the jar of peanut butter. Get a butter knife and stick it inside of the peanut butter jar. With the knife, scoop a bit of peanut butter out
That means like a lot.
A bit means a lot?
In my world.
Spread your scoop of peanut butter onto one of your pieces of bread with the knife. All right? There we go.
You're doing better than before, though.
Open the jelly jar. Squeeze it onto the other piece of bread.
No.
Done. Closer.
You suck.
Get 2 pieces bread. Get some peanut butter. Take the peanut butter knife. Open the peanut butter. Put the knife in the Get some jelly. Open the jelly.
No.
Squirt the jelly onto the bread.
You're supposed to.
Take the butter knife with the peanut butter on it. Wipe it all over the piece of bread that's blank. Take the butter knife. Rub the jelly all over the piece of bread.
Oh, he's doing better. Oh.
It says all over. Put the 2 pieces on top of each other.
This isn't how I meant.
Take 2 pieces of white bread out of the bag. Take the lid off the jar of peanut butter. Get a butter knife and stick it inside of the peanut butter jar. With the knife, scoop some of the peanut butter out of the inside of the jar. Spread your scoop of peanut butter onto one of your pieces of bread with a knife.
No.
Squeeze some jelly onto the other piece of bread. Spread the jelly on the bread with the butter knife. Put your 2 pieces of bread, peanut butter and jelly sides together. Done. Get 2 pieces of bread. Get some peanut butter. Get some jelly. Open the peanut butter. Get a butter knife. Put the butter knife in the peanut butter. Take the butter knife out of the peanut butter.
You did it wrong. No.
Take 1 piece of bread and take the butter knife that has the peanut butter on it and spread it all over the top of the piece of bread.
Dad,
That's the top.
I mean the sides.
Squirt some on another piece of bread. Take the butter knife, rub it all over the top of the piece of bread.
I quit. You're not making any sense. Sorry, ruined it on purpose. He knows how to make one. I know, Evan. It's the joke.
They do eventually get it, but we're not going to show the whole thing.
I probably find that video more amusing than most people. I just love that video so much. Yeah, how many times have we felt that way trying to teach something? I know I have. It's like, you're not even making any sense. You know how to do this. I've explained this to you 20 times. I'm that boy sometimes. Very much so. Yeah, you can see obviously this is a very exaggerated version of what a task analysis could be. There obviously was a little bit of trolling there, like the top of the bread. Wait a minute, like you're telling me you've never ever seen a sandwich like yeah. Pure comedy, but it paints a picture of task analysis. Sometimes you're going to have to be so descriptive. And yes, I quit. That's it. You are on your own. If I can't explain it, I've done all I can. But the good news is, if you're ever at that breaking point where you just quit, you've tried all you can, all you know, technical assistance from me or Hillary, we might just offer an idea that maybe you haven't thought about. Hillary, once upon a time, had this, and that's why I use the example of the left-handedness. It's like, yep, absolutely right. Don't make assumptions about what they already know. But anyways, the task analysis needed to be reversed for a left-handed person because it was being written for a right-handed. And as far as don't make assumptions what they already know, in MBA business school, we call this the curse of knowledge. Sometimes we've known something for so long that we kind of instinctively, without realizing it, assume, oh, it's so clear and obvious. How could anyone not know this? So in leadership communication, you got to understand that for your staff, like one example, I kept using our acronyms, ADA, IDEA, VR, and I had to get some feedback from a fellow coworker that said, some people may not know what these acronyms actually mean. And I was like, oh, thank you. I didn't realize I've been using them for so long. I kind of just instinctively assumed everybody knew them. And I forgot that I had to be taught that once upon a time. Go ahead to the next slide, Hillary. Okay. Developing training objectives. Training objectives should specify the conditions where the task will occur. I'm sorry, Hillary, can you take over? I'm stumbling.
Yeah. Elizabeth asked a question though, and it is, don't make assumptions what they already know, right? But I thought we were supposed to assume intelligence and competency. Yes, you should, right? However, you need to know the prerequisites, and you need to know where the learner's at. You need to know what their abilities are. What experiences do they have? Maybe someone's never turned on a stove before, right? And that's fine. It's just just assessing, what things that maybe they've done before, what experiences they have. Right. And you always want to talk to them at their chronological age, not their developmental age, and only provide additional instructions if they continue to have difficulty. Right. So you provide more support, but as needed. You want to provide the least amount of support, but the most effective that gets the results that you want, which is the correct completion of the target task. Does that make sense? Did I answer the question? Yes. But yes, always assume competency. It's scaffolding. I don't know, if you guys have ever been, if you guys we have a paraeducator here. I'm sure you're very familiar with scaffolding, right? You base off, what the previous information was, and you build off of the knowledge that's there. And if it's not there, then you got to teach to that. Brian or RJ said everyone doesn't know something regardless of ability. Right? For me, for example, I'm Sicilian, so I was born knowing how to make pasta. Right? That's just right? I was born knowing that. Joking. Don't tell my grandma. But right, not everyone knows that, right? What are their experiences? What have they done before? Which is it's a great question, and it kind of brings it into our next slide, which is how to develop those training objectives, right? Developing training objectives is an important step to teaching an employee to acquire a new skill. And each objective should be operationalized in terms that are both, observable and measurable. So the objective should include, it's really what are we trying to teach is the training objectives. And these objectives should include the conditions where the skill will be performed, the tools needed to complete the task, and should include the criteria you'll use to evaluate those performance objectives. Are they learning? Right, you want to always be taking data.
I have a question about that.
Mm-hmm.
You said to talk to them at their age, right? But if this is completely hypothetical. I'm totally curious. If they're at the age of a 12-year-old, but they're actually 43, I'm going to talk to a 43-year-old different than a 12-year-old. Is there a way that I can kind of go in between where I'm still I'm not treating them as a child, but I'm still teaching them in a way that they're going to understand rather than a 43-year-old? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you're going to want to start talking to them like they're a 43-year-old. right? And then only, decrease like language and stuff as needed. So you're gonna like default to their chronological age. And then, it's also like a good kind of like, so there's universal language. So like if things are in writing or stuff, you kind of like, a lot of like trainers do this with the universal kind of language. Like you want to develop stuff that's probably about like a 6th to 8th grade reading level. That's like a kind of like a safe area where, people should be. So, right, you only default to, providing like more instruction and additional assistance as needed.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
No, I get it. Like my brother, he also has some developmental delays. And so I will talk to him and I'll tell him these things, but then I kind of realize that he doesn't know what exactly I'm talking about. And so then I use smaller words to help him understand, because he's probably, I don't know, probably around like a 16 and he's almost 30. So I feel like, I don't know. I guess my question was kind of dumb. You were saying to talk to them at their age, but if they're functioning so not like kind of lower than expected, I feel like, I don't know, somewhere in that range is, I don't know.
So I just want to chime in a little bit. As far like one of the most important parts about communication is checking for understanding. And so throughout your conversation with individuals, you can check for understanding without belittling them. So like, this is what I'm saying. Does that make sense? That's no way going to be inappropriate because you're respecting them. You wanted to know if you're on the same page. And so it's not about what you're saying, but how you're presenting it, and if you're checking for understanding, because there'll be body signs that they know what you're saying or if they understand. If not, so as long as you're constantly checking for understanding, you won't be having any problems.
Exactly. The way I look at it is just what Peter said. Trying to simplify words is not an age exclusive thing. I mean, I think all of us at some point have had to be like, I'm sorry, you explained that very well, but can you put that in simpler terms, please? It's more about tone and presentation for sure. Like, just because they have the competency of like, say, a 16 or a 12-year-old doesn't mean we have to present it like they are that way. Like, if it like talking to them like they're a child, you could still talk to someone like an adult. It's like, sorry, maybe I over explained that. All I'm saying is, etc. It's more about tone.
So we just got some other comments in the chat box. So Kendon said, I think talking to them for their age largely is about tone. Yes. I find simple words are okay. It's a lot about how you talk to them too, right? Like baby talk and stuff. Right? Oh, that is like nails on a chalkboard to me, right? Like they're adults. Good, right? It's about the tone. And yeah, I ask questions like every day when I'm learning something new. Like, I don't know a lot of this universal lingo without knowing, like, I don't have a super academic background. I had to learn, there was quite a bit of a learning curve when I started working in a university. And then Lou said, like, if you use a complex word and they don't understand, you can clarify and continue using that word. Yeah, like, provide a definition, right? Like earlier, right, I was like, does anyone know what a compensatory strategy is? That's fine. This is what it is. Here's some examples. Does anyone know what Taylorism before, right? It's like that acquisition of new skills. Right? It's okay to ask questions and go into more detail as needed. So those good questions. Right. And if you ever have any questions about that stuff, reach out to Taylor, right? We can help with guidance. We're always happy to do that sort of stuff. But very good question. So going back to developing training objectives, like what are you trying to teach? What do they need help with, right? So dividing your objective is an important step to hold process.
I have a quick question. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Just back with like the talking to them at their chronological age. If you have like a client who is functioning at like maybe like 3 years old and they are that's like where their mindset is, do you still try to talk to them like they're like 45 years old? And like, how can you adjust it so that they understand what you're saying too? Because I have a client who I want to make sure she understands what I'm trying to say to her, because she does function at the age of a 3-year-old, even though her chronological age is 45 years old. How would you handle that to make sure that I'm talking to her correctly in a way that's respectful to her?
So good question. I've had to work with a client like that, and guilty as charged. I started out talking kind of like he was cute and innocent and such. And one of the other DSPs had to train me. Look, he's not 3 years old. He can take direct, simple commands. Like when we were cooking, I didn't have to like do every step and be like, isn't this awesome? He's like, you can tell him like, hey, could you please go get the can of beans? And he knew what I was talking about. There's a saying that if we talk to them in a presentation way, like they are their assumed competency age, that's all they'll ever know how to be. I've had another example where I had somebody with Down syndrome, and she decided to flop in the middle of the road. And it was a nightmare, as you could imagine. Cars were coming by. They thought, like, people were like, what are you guys doing? And I'm like, anyways, fast forward, it got to the point where I had to call her mom and be like, she's not listening to us. I can't get her off the road. And her mom came and talked to her like a baby, saying, are you doing all right? Do you want to go get ice cream and get off and take school off? And she's suddenly like smiling, yeah. And I'm like, this is why she does this, because she likes that attention. She gets rewarded for this. If she had been, talked more like, hey, it's time to get off the road, for a longer period of time, she could have realized that is what people do, but because that's how she's treated at home, that's all she knows how to be. Anything to add to that, Hillary?
Yeah, I was going to say, right, like, so the client that you work with, right, has the developmental age of a 3-year-old, like, has anyone talked to her like she's 40? Has anyone ever done that? Or is it always just like...
I'm not really sure. Like, she's not nonverbal, but she has, like, a harder time communicating. And so, like, I don't know. I think most people around her do talk to her like that.
Mm-hmm. Right? So maybe...
yeah.
Right, so maybe she doesn't have a lot of experience being talked to like she's an adult, right? And she is an adult, right? Like you're not gonna go like, right, like, welcome to the real world, Like, I know I sound mean with that, but like, right, she's an adult. She should be treated like an adult, right? There's a difference between being accommodating and enabling, if that makes sense. We don't want to enable our clients. We want to be accommodating and, understand what supports they need to be successful, but we don't want to enable, right? There's a big difference. And then also at the same time, a fine line between being accommodating and enabling.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, these are great questions, right? And you can only do the best that you can with the information you have. So, right, it's like, and it's just getting to know your clients and like what they need to be successful, right? Everything is individualized, and it's going to be a case-by-case basis, but always start at the chronological age, right? And then go down. All right. Right, what is the objective? These are really great questions. Keep them coming. But so training objectives. So we've been talking about task analysis. So training objectives are important because it's like, what are you trying to teach them? Think of, I guess, a task analysis. Think of a task analysis as steps in a roadmap. Okay. It tells you how to get from point A to point B, right? And it lists out all the steps, right, of how to get from where you're at to the destination. So think of your training objective as everything else you need to know. Okay. So the objective is you need to get to the workplace supports training at 9 in the morning. And right, since this is online, you didn't have to drive anywhere, but if you did have to commute, right? Like, okay, what time do you need to leave? How much time do you have to give yourself so you can make it, so you can do that, you can get there? Do you need to stop to get gas? What tools and stuff do you need? What is the objective? And then here are all the steps to get to that objective. So this is actually an example of a training objective. Or I actually going back to this one with steps on a roadmap. Has anyone ever put together IKEA furniture? Okay, right. They are masters at this stuff. So going back to like businesses are interested in this. So the objective is you're going to put together this cute little cupboard without murdering your significant other, right? There's the goal and objective, right? And then it has all of the tools and materials you need to build that. And then it has all the steps written out. Right. So this stuff isn't just for people with disabilities. It's for everyone, right? Or following a recipe, right? Your goal is to make pesto, right? And again, I was born knowing how to do that, but for people that aren't Sicilian, they might need a recipe written out, so it's right, it's all about that. And it's not just for people with disabilities. Oh, I went ahead of the slide. Sorry. So this is the training objectives. This is an example of one. Any other questions on like what a training objective is or a task analysis? We good there? Good. Right, so this is from a study that our supervisor, Dr. Tim Reeson did. Don't tell him I called him doctor. He doesn't like that. This is from a study that our supervisor, Tim, did, and he was teaching high school students job tasks and comparing different prompting strategies. And we're going to talk a lot more about prompting strategies here in a minute. So when we're talking about instruction and acquisition of new skills, like we're gonna train them and use these skills and resources systematically, right? It's all going to come together so people can complete complex tasks. So in this example, this guy worked at Little Caesars. Okay, so here's the thing at Little Caesars, going back to Taylorism and its impact on business. And they kind of alluded to this at McDonald's where they showed like the conveyor belt. Well, Little Caesars already had a task analysis written out for their employees, for all employees. So the task analysis were already done. Not only were they written task analysis, but they had pictures, and they were all printed on giant poster boards and placed at each workstation. So again, it wasn't just for people with disabilities; it was for all employees. So when we're talking about how this is what we do, we're talking about this is what expected and maximizing efficiency, right? There's examples everywhere with Taylorism. So this example, this is the training objective for making a pizza. So we have the observable and measurable training objective, right? So given a deep dish pizza pan, 4-ounce ladle, and a 6-ounce cheese cup, Jerry will independently make a pepperoni deep dish pizza with 100% accuracy for 5 consecutive trials according to the steps outlined in that task analysis. Right, so and then we have the setting. He's going to be in the restaurant kitchen, right? That's where he needs to be to prepare this deep dish pizza. Materials. He needs that deep dish pan, pizza dough, 6-ounce cheese cup. So at Little Caesars, if you go over 6 ounces of cheese, you get in trouble. And so also going back to systematic instruction and, Taylorism. So it's like, say a 6-ounce cheese cup is orange. The ladle with the orange top is also going to be 6 ounces. Or, the blue cup might be 12 ounces. The blue ladle is going to be 12 ounces. So they had color coded everything too, right? This is what businesses are interested in. Right, 6-ounce cheese cup, sauce ladle, cheese, pepperoni, 4 pieces of pepperoni on each section, and there are 4 sections. So, 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of pepperoni on each section, bam, right? That's the objective. Doesn't have to be overly complex or analytical. Right, so all that was done was that he wrote down what Little Caesars already had on those big poster boards and then just added a little bit more detailed information. So, right, step 1, place the deep dish pan on prep station. And then he has notes about quality and speed. So each pizza should take approximately 1 minute to make. Okay, so if the pizza takes longer than a minute to make, the dough starts to rise and it just tears easily and it's not high quality, right? So Jerry's going to have to be able to do all of this within a minute. Okay. The next step, punch down dough into pan with 2 fingers. Jerry would punch the dough down too hard. And so it was important for Tim to know how to do this task, right? And recognize that that was a mistake and then teach to that. So he modeled how to, how much pressure to use, and then put it also then if that didn't work, and then he put his hands over his hands to show him how much pressure he needed. Right, and then ladle pizza sauce on deep dish section. All right, next step, spread sauce evenly on each of the section with bottled ladles. Sauce was uneven, so he had to recognize that and teach to that. All right, fill 6-ounce cheese cup with cheese. Evenly spread cheese on each pizza section. The cheese was uneven, so right, he had to do that error correction. Be like, hey, that cheese isn't even. We need to do it needs to look like this. Let's try that again, or let's even that out. And then place 4 pepperonis on each section. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bam. Right, there's the observable, measurable training objective, and then here's how to do it and everything that you need, right? Again, it doesn't have to be super complex or overly analytical, right? It's this is what is expected and this is how you do it. And I like using this example because, right, Little Caesars already had all of this stuff there, right? All the task analysis and color coding, right? And it's a good example to show that businesses are interested in efficiency and productivity, right? And they don't want to hire someone that can't do the job. And there's a ton of research out there that shows people with disabilities can be as productive and efficient as people without disabilities. There's a ton of proof out there, evidence and research based. I have the articles, right? It's all about workplace supports and accommodations and all this stuff. But guess what happens by just having a disability label, right? And Mary asked this earlier, right? They're perceived as risky automatically. Right, so you as job coaches, right, it's not accurate. There's a ton of research out there that says otherwise. But as job coaches, you need to go in there and kind of be like risk mitigators and go to the workplace and say, hey, I'm here to help and mitigate some of those incorrect perceived risks. You're there to increase productivity. It's a win-win, right? The employee is able to do the job accurately and efficiently, and the employer gets someone that can do the job accurately, efficiently, and productively. Right, so this is what we want, right? You got to be those, you got to assuage any of those misguided fears and set up the support so they can be successful. All right, inquiry. So we are going to be doing an activity, right? I'm going to have you guys all write in a task analysis, but we should break for lunch first, right? Yeah. Right, I know, well, some people don't like this activity, so I don't want you hangry when we have you do this task analysis, right? So I want you guys to be kind of happy with me. So let's do our 30-minute lunch break. Be back here at 1:05. Also, if you have not grabbed a t-shirt, please do so. Get a t-shirt if you can, because you are going to be writing a task analysis on this certain way of how to fold a t-shirt. So again, going back to what Taylor said earlier, you want to know how to do the task, like you need to know how to do the task before you can write out that analysis. And it's really hard to fold a t-shirt if you don't have the proper tools. So go get a t-shirt, and I'll see you guys back here at 1:05. A vest will work.